Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Life Show. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It is a great day to be great, and it's a great day to break down 16 players that we cannot wait to draft this upcoming fantasy season. And by we, I mean myself and Fantasy Life's finest. We got Matthew Freedman in the house. Matt F. the Oracle, that's right, that little kid from the league, grew up and now is a full-time fantasy aficionado. Freedman, 51 days until Cowboys-Eagles. Yeah, Dick Bucket's number away. How we feeling?
Feeling great about life, about fantasy football approaching. Not so great about the Cowboys going against the Eagles on opening night, but that's just what it is. Football is great, and man, it is almost back.
I just love, I'm not sure if you're in any of these group meets, Freedman, where, you're counting down the days to something. We do it actually sometimes in the Fantasy Live company chat where it's just having people spamming out different numbers, okay, 51. So you just have these old jerseys, old school players going around. Hey, I was actually 51 for the, cup of coffee I had playing in D3 football. So Dick Buckus, Ian Hartitz, both have kind of weird last names.
Yeah, I would also think of Ken Norton Jr., all-time Cowboys great. I say that. The dude made one Pro Bowl, maybe two Pro Bowls, but he was a legend in the Super Bowl 27 goal line stand against the Buffalo Bills. So for that reason alone, number 51 with Ken Norton Jr. is just always embedded in my brain.
Gotta love that. And again, gotta love the show we have on tap for you guys. 16 players that we cannot wait to draft. As always, though, we will be spending the last 5 to 10 minutes of the show answering any questions that you guys have in our YouTube chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in with us live, as we are live every Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern throughout the rest of the offseason and the rest of the NFL season as a whole. So anything you guys got about players that you guys are personally drafting a lot, maybe you're afraid to draft, just let us know. And again, we will get to that at the end of the show. But before we get to that, guys, let's talk about our actual favorite forms of fantasy football. It's time for the DraftKings opening lines. All right, Freedman, I'd like to start things out with the show on a bit of a lighter note, especially when there's nothing too pertinent to talk about in terms of NFL news. Kudos to Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner getting their contract extensions, but let's face it, that's not exactly changing things in the fantasy sphere. So I asked this question on Twitter and just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it, where just basically, what is your favorite form of fantasy football out there? Because for my money's worth, I cannot open up Twitter these days without seeing best ball screenshots left and right and talk about advance rate and this and that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And whatever you like to play, go ahead and play. It's 2025 and everything. But these results kind of shocked me, Freedman. Over 7,000 votes, 42% of my lovely followers who decided to vote said traditional redraft was their favorite, 40% dynasty, only 15% best ball, and under 3% guillotine. I will say guillotine, you people are missing out. It is so much fun. But Freedman, just on a surface level, did these results surprise you?
A little bit, because we live in the echo chamber of best ball, because we're thinking about this stuff year round during the summer, and best ball is a year round format. But I got to say, I am enthused by a couple of things. One, you might say, oh, guillotine less than 3%, but I would say I think that the percentage of people who have played guillotine who responded to this with guillotine as their favorite, I bet that's pretty high. And then I'd also say all right, guillotine has a lot of room to grow. And I think that's great given that, all of us at Fantasy Life are such guillotine enthusiasts. And then also dynasty being right up there with redraft. I love that because dynasty it's my personal favorite, followed by guillotine. I just love the dynasty format that the moves that you make in redraft. If you, for instance, 1 year drop a guy or don't, bid enough on fab, maybe that sucks and you don't win your league because of it, but you can start fresh the next year. If in dynasty at the end of his rookie year, I drop Arian Foster and then in years 2 through 5, he becomes the best running back on the planet, that move cost me multiple championships. And that move literally did cost me multiple championships to where I can remember it. But that's what's great about dynasty, that format. You have to have thick skin, and the skin that you have in the game, that skin lasts a long time. So I personally love that about the dynasty format. But as you say, all formats of fantasy are great formats. I think it's whatever you prefer, go with that. And it's fantastic that in this time of the industry, there are so many formats that can fit people differently, and it can appeal to so many different types of fantasy players.
I'm happy you did own up to that Aaron Foster, tidbit being true about you, because I could tell that's been eating you alive now for over a decade and a half. That's what you get with Dynasty. And again, just kind of growing with those teams over the course of several years, I can only imagine. Unfortunately, wasn't lucky enough to, I think my first Dynasty team was like 2015, 2016. So didn't get to start the Travis Kelce, career path, but I'm sure someone that did. I mean, just how can you not feel better about not only your fantasy team, but just life in general when you do something that cool out there? So if I was doing my own poll, I probably would have gone with just traditional redraft. Just, again, it's always been there, OG, kind of special place in my heart. But man, guys, again, yes, we have guillotine leagues over here at Fantasy Life, but I kid you not, it really is, I believe, the fastest rising and my personal second favorite form of fantasy, because the waiver wires, that is my big thing. I get so tired on Tuesdays and Wednesdays looking through all these RB2s and RB3s, guys that we know are still an injury away from basically being fantasy relevant. Guillotine leagues, I'm bidding for CeeDee Lamb, I'm bidding for Puka Nacua, I'm bidding for these absolute studs, and it just makes it so much more fun. So unfortunately, Freedman, can we do 4 options on these polls? What are your thoughts on auction leagues? Because I would have, made that my 5th choice. Don't think it would have been taken over the top spot, but really fun draft experience at a minimum.
Okay. Auction leagues, I would say theoretically, it's like maybe the quote unquote like best form of a fantasy that you can play. Each one is different. League dynamics are really intriguing with the auctions. That said, I hate auction drafts because in my experience, they can take so long and there's no way of scaling it. You know what I mean? Like if you play in best ball, if you play in redraft, you really kind of have a sense for how the board goes, how everything falls, especially with best ball leagues, you can crank
We back? We still live? Still rolling along here after some brief technical difficulties, but to echo Freeman's general sentiment, auction leagues, very good in theory, but man, those drafts do get awfully long out there. If you can hire an auctioneer, I would recommend doing so. A lot of fun when we do that over at the Kings Classic, but yeah, keeper leagues, another one where didn't want to put that in the poll because you can kind of apply that to all different forms of fantasy. I would recommend adding a keeper or two if you do feel like your league is getting stale or anything like that. But again, moral of the story, all fantasy football is good fantasy football. Feel free to let us know in the comments what your specific form is and why. But yeah, also feel free to try those guillotine leagues. Very, very fun. Something that I just got into recently that I cannot wait to keep on going down those streets. So guys, this has been the DraftKings opening lines. And now a quick word to our friends over at DraftKings. UFC 318 is coming in hot and the excitement is building with the fight world's biggest names set to clash in the octagon. Every strike, takedown, and upset could be unforgettable. Check out DraftKings Pick 6, the exciting new way to play daily fantasy sports. All new customers who play just $5 will score $50 in bonus picks, perfect for riding the highs of every match. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and sign up with code FANTASYLIFE to claim your offer. That's code FANTASYLIFE only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. All right, Freedman, we're going through 16 players today that we cannot wait to draft here. And let's face it, we've been in those best ball streets drafting already, but home leagues are on the horizon. And I know most of you out there have not been sick enough to do it just yet. So now we're telling you the guys that us personally cannot wait to get after. So going to start things off with you, Freedman. You are selecting someone to kick things off who has never taken a regular season snap. This is not Thor Nystrom, I believe I'm talking to right now, but sell me on Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy, Freedman.
Yeah, not to step onto Thor Nystrom's toes by taking his bit and talking about how J.J. McCarthy is already a Hall of Famer and the greatest quarterback ever produced by the Big Ten. But J.J. McCarthy, I gotta say, I'm pretty enthusiastic about him. And let's start with Kevin O'Connell. I will very freely own that I was pessimistic about head coach Kevin O'Connell whenever he was hired by the Vikings 3 years ago. Basically, the biggest point on his resume at that point in time was that he had stood next to Sean McVay while McVay was calling plays. That was basically it. But Kevin O'Connell has definitely proven me wrong since then and proven himself to be something of a quarterback whisperer based on the work that he has done with Kirk Cousins. What he was able to do in that half season when Kirk Cousins was injured, keeping that offense afloat. And then definitely, I would say the high point now was what he was able to do last year with Sam Darnold, who looked like a legitimate MVP candidate, but prior to that was basically a career bust. And now you say, okay, it is possible that Kevin O'Connell has the best quarterback that he has had throughout his tenure with the Vikings. You look at JJ McCarthy, picked number 10 overall. The athleticism that he has is not like, oh, he's sneaky athletic. It's like, no, he's legitimately athletic. A 6.82 second 3-cone drill, that is like elite athleticism for a quarterback. He has the college production. People will kind of look at McCarthy and be like, oh, he didn't really have to do much in college to win. And like, okay, I can kind of see that. But whenever they did need him to produce, he produced 72.3% completion rate, 9.8 adjusted yards per attempt in his final season at Michigan. And I will say, like, I know this is like sort of stupid to say, but like the guy's a winner. Like he's got like the winning makeup. He won a national championship in high school, won a national championship in college. He entered college as a 5-star recruit, and then he lived up to that billing when he was in college and still entered the NFL at a very young age, just 21 years old as a rookie. Didn't play at all last year, but I think even though he was recovering from an injury, he was still soaking in, absorbing the offense of Kevin O'Connell. And so I'm not going to say like, hey, we should expect him to have sort of like a second season like Patrick Mahomes had when he was a rookie on the bench, and then second season was like the best player in the league. But I think McCarthy will look better than the typical rookie because he has had the year of soaking in everything, learning the system. And then on top of that, I will just say, he's got Kevin O'Connell as a play caller, and he has some of the best skill position surrounding talent in the league with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones. I just think JJ McCarthy could be, I don't want to say like a league winner, but like he's got the potential to be so much better than where people are drafting him. And I think in your home leagues, no one is going to be thinking about JJ McCarthy, but like, even though you're drafting him as like, I don't know, the QB 18, the QB 20, like he has the potential immediately to be a QB1. So I'm really interested in being able to draft him. And I just know I'm going to be able to get him basically in the final round of my home drafts. So he's someone I'm really looking at.
And that's something that I've noticed too when we've done some of these mock drafts with the fantasy team. Because again, some active drafts I'm doing right now, you usually got to take multiple quarterbacks, but just traditional one quarterback home leagues, which a lot of us are going to be in, you'll see guys like JJ McCarthy, even Brock Purdy's, Jordan Love's, literally going the last round. Like Freedman, when I'm on the clock, I don't know about you, but there are times where I'm tempted to get myself a Kyler Murray or Patrick Mahomes. But then I get to round 15 and 16, and I see the guys that are still going. Look, I'm about to talk about Josh Allen here in a little bit. I do think there is a certain, archetype of quarterback that deserves to be going early, but I almost feel like taking a page out of Ricky Bobby's playbook this year. I'm going first, and if I'm going first, it's going to be the Josh Allen, Lamar Jacksons of the world. But if I'm going last, I can end up with JJ McCarthy. Man, you could be able to build up some deep running back, wide receiver, and even tight end rooms if you're going with that strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I like about McCarthy is the rushing capability. And so that's why I would prefer him to maybe other guys like Purdy if you're going late. Like he's got the running capability that I think could make him sort of like this year's Bo Nix.
Yeah. Again, I would love to hate on this guy. I got my Cardale Jones Buckeye jersey over my shoulder for that. Those of you can see it here in the YouTube streets. But man, Ryan Day picked Kyle McCord over JJ McCarthy back in the day, and the guy's freaking made some rough post-Thanksgiving Saturdays for me ever since then. So at least now I can root for him wearing that purple up in Minnesota. Speaking of that rushing upside, my quarterback that I cannot wait to draft this season above all else is a Buckeye. That's right, Justin Fields, everybody. But putting my, scarlet and gray blood aside, aside for a second. We have not seen Justin Fields ever since his rookie season be anything other than a great fantasy quarterback. All right. This is a situation where we do need to separate real life from fantasy because, yeah, 13 of his career, I understand the passing hasn't exactly come along the way any of us would have hoped. But man, we're talking about someone that in 2022 was the QB5 in fantasy points per game, the QB11 in 2023. Even through those first 6 games with the Steelers last year, he was still the QB8 because quarterbacks who run the ball as much as Fields do not bust in fantasy football land. You go back all the way to 2014, guys, and we've had 31 quarterbacks rack up at least 100 rush attempts in a single season. 28 of those, 90%, end up finishing as a top 12 quarterback on a per game basis. Not even doing that trick you'll see people do with the overall numbers, and it's just guys who stayed healthy long enough to, again, put up the fantasy points. So Freeman, again, with Justin Fields, like he's being priced as a borderline QB1. We've seen him be a top 5 quarterback before. I mean, every year we're trying to find the quote unquote Konami code, the rusher that goes in the later rounds. It seems to be Justin Fields, and we can actually get him at an affordable price. Look, Tyrod Taylor, 35-year-old Ty God, okay, all due respect, but there's $40 million, 40 million reasons why the Jets should try to get everything they can out of Fields over these next 2 years. What am I missing here?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not really interested in many of the other offensive players on the Jets, but Justin Fields, I'm really interested in, so much so to where he's my, honorable mention for this segment. Yeah. And you can look at the projections that I have at Fantasy Life. Dwayne McFarland also has a great set of projections there. I have Justin Fields projected as my QB7 for the season. Now that's making the assumption that he stays healthy and, doesn't miss more than a couple of games, but Dwayne has him projected pretty high, and Ian, to your point, $40 million. That is what the Jets are paying him. I think they're taking the pretty big stab of like, hey, this guy could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And, one thing, even though Justin Fields was benched last year, he has gotten progressively better as a passer each year of his career. And he has the talent around him with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. They could be better than you expect, like the Jets offense in general, but even if they're not, I still think the rushing capability that Justin Fields brings every game gives him an incredibly high floor. And then you extrapolate that over a season. Yeah, I think that gives him the capability of pretty easily finishing as a top 10 quarterback. And that's kind of where you're drafting him. So I think you're drafting him pretty close to his floor.
Have the projections on the screen right now. 140 rush attempts, 826 rushing yards, guys. Second at the position. You can check out our full projections over at fantasylife.com. Feel free to use code QB10 to get 10% off a tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. So again, just a situation where I'm happy you did shout out. There have been some improvements as a passer. His completion rate, his passer rating has risen actually every single year he's been in the league. Interception rate has gone down every year. So like, again, you watch Fields and clearly he doesn't get through his progressions fast enough. Yeah, that's a major problem. I'm not trying to deny that. But when you do have all that ability, I mean, look, don't have to take my word for it. I'm just a fantasy guy after all. But Ben Solak does a lot of really great work now with ESPN. He's been all over the place. He had a nice article go out recently where he was just looking at, what quarterbacks could be the next Sam Darnold, the next Geno Smith. And one of the things he did accurately, I think, point out was you need a guy who has those high-end elite physical tools in the first place. I do think we can all agree at a minimum Fields has that. So Freeman, last point here. Do you think there's a chance that Tanner Engstrand can actually get more out of Fields in New York? Because it is funny to me how, again, Ben Johnson leaves the Lions. Okay, now the Bears are going to be sick. The Lions are still going to be fine, though, because Ben Johnson was there. They helped him out, okay? Why wouldn't Ben Johnson's right-hand man going to the Jets potentially help things out over there? I mean, maybe it's a situation like the Water Boy. Maybe he stole Ben Johnson's green notebook at some point. Couldn't this maybe be a situation with a good offensive line, or Jets going to jet?
Mate, I'm fairly skeptical, to be honest, about the Tanner Engstrom angle. I mean, he's never been an NFL play caller, and he has a defensive-oriented head coach. That put together just makes me a little unsure, but Justin Fields on his own, all you have to say is like, oh, the running ability. That's basically it. And maybe if he's a better passer, continues to improve, and if Engstrom actually is a good play caller, then there's room for upside. Because he's also got Garrett Wilson there, I think a true legitimate number 1 wide receiver that he could throw to. So he's got some of the talent around him. If he just improves and Engstrom's actually good, then yeah, there's upside there. And I would say I don't want to say hey, what if he has a Geno Smith kind of career trajectory, but it could be a situation where there are guys in the NFL who just take a little bit of time. Like Alex Smith took time to develop, but there are guys who take time to develop and then end up becoming pretty good quarterbacks. I think that is within the range of outcomes for Justin Fields.
Last time Engstrom was calling plays was for the DC Defenders, who ironically employ Cardale Jones. So second time you've heard that name today. Got to be setting a record here in those fantasy streets. So as Freedman did mention, though, Justin Fields was also his honorable mention. I wanted to give a quick shout out to, this one's going to shock you guys, Josh Allen. But seriously, okay, I understand he's everyone's QB1 or QB2 out here, but I do think it's setting up this year where if you can get him in round 3 at the right tier price point, I'm going to be more into drafting an early round quarterback than most of these past years, okay? I mean, I think there's about 11 wide receivers. Once you get past the A.J. Brown, Lab McConkey line, we start getting some questions. Similar thing at running back. After the first about 10 or so guys, I start having questions as well. Trey McBride, Brock Bowers are great, but man, you reach that point early on in round 3 where it's like, I don't know if I want to worry about Rashee Rice's knee. I don't know if I want to take the chance on Kyron Williams keeping that job. Why not just take someone in Josh Allen, who has literally been a top 2 quarterback 5 years running in terms of fantasy points per game. So I think if we had to really go around position by position and just say, okay, you will win $1 million if you can just bet on one guy to finish in the top 3 at their position, it very well might be Josh Allen. So again, having that guy locked down also buys you just the, opportunity cost where you don't need to worry about the position of the rest of the way. Josh Allen early, something I've been doing a lot already and looking forward to continuing to do so as we get into true redraft season. So those have been our quarterbacks, guys. Now on to some running backs we cannot wait to draft. It's time for the ADP audit presented by Premier National Sports. Going to be screen sharing a bit with you guys here because, yes, we do have a pretty fantastic ADP tool over at fantasylife.com where, again, it helps show you the differences and getting some of these guys based on where you are playing. We got ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo, Real-Time Sports, of course, Underdog, and Dynasty as well, and it really can change things a lot. So as we get deeper into August, we're going to see some of the ESPN and Yahoo ADPs catch up, but there will continue to be some just very stark differences between, again, where guys are going, and that can help, set up your strategy overall. So as you guys can see on the screen, even also have, for Yahoo, I guess exactly how much they have been moving in recent weeks. So Christian McCaffrey still going pick 17.9 over at Sleeper, middle of round 2. Sign me up, man. Meanwhile, ESPN and Yahoo, yes, he is going to cost you more of a general low first round pick. But we are not going to be talking about McCaffrey here, Freedman. We are talking about your favorite. It's old man Alvin Kamara. So Freedman, I don't know if you realize, but he's old. I mean, look at him. He's old, but you still want to draft the reigning RB5 in PPR points per game. Talk about Alvin Kamara and his potential to ball out, even though none of us exactly expect too much out of the Saints offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints offense wasn't great last year, and Kamara was still the RB5, in points per game. And yeah, he missed a little bit of time, but I mean, I'd still think he showed enough last year for me to be enthusiastic about him this year, given that right now, if you're looking at Underdog ADP, he's like the RB18. That just feels like such a big discount. Now, I think the discount is based on his age and also based on extreme pessimism in the Saints offense overall. So yes, I will just acknowledge Alvin Kamara. He will be 30 years old for the entirety of the 2025 campaign. That is old for a running back, but I don't know, man. He's the pass catching back that doesn't really take a lot of wear and tear on the body. And so I think he can play a little bit older. And we're just off a season of seeing Derrick Henry with, age 30 on his resume, just absolutely crushing it. I think Kamara could have something similar. And then I'll say, I'm not as sold on everyone that the Saints offense is going to be terrible. It might just be your garden variety subpar, but not terrible. And if that's the case, then I think so many of the Saints are undervalued in the market. And I'll just say specifically with Kamara, the Saints, they didn't bring in a running back in free agency. So Kamara, it looks like he's pretty much in line for the same workload. They didn't draft a running back until round 6. So, I mean, I think it's Kamara's backfield once again. That gives him a great chance to replicate the almost 1,500 yards that he had from scrimmage last year, again, in only 14 games. And only once in his career has he had fewer than 1,300 scrimmage yards yards. And of course, he's a 3-down back, so you know that he's going to be getting the high leverage targets. And then also he's good enough at the goal line to where he could get some of that work. So I think he has an elite floor and a very underappreciated ceiling. So it sounds so stupid to kind of be like, the guy who's 30 years old, I want. And then also it sounds kind of stupid to say like, oh, the guy who's been awesome for like 8 years, I want. But that's just kind of where we are. I think Kamara is underappreciated for a number of reasons, and I'm looking to get him at what I think will be a pretty big discount in my home leagues.
Does feel like something that's weighed more so against him than others. We all agree. We want running backs in high-scoring offenses. Okay, that's not a hot take or anything like that. I'm looking right now at the kind of Vegas implied point totals for every team this year. Browns are in last. Saints are in second to last. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. But they're still implied to score 19.2 real-life points per game. Okay, the Colts are implied to score 21.6. They're still a bottom 8 offense, but I don't hear anyone completely out on Jonathan Taylor just because the offense is expected to be bad. Okay. So again, not saying that you can't fade Kamara because, again, you have the age concerns and this and that, but don't be this person who's, again, all in on just, oh my God, the Saints are this offense I can't touch, when in reality, again, they're only being projected for 1 or 2 fewer real life points per game than guys like Jonathan Taylor and Ashton Genty in their respective offenses. So good shout there, Freeman. I'm also going to be getting someone who is not a rookie, someone that we've seen in the last few years, someone who's also not exactly in the best offense, but man, I'm chasing him anyway. That's right, it is Mr. Kenneth Walker the third. Look, I think we are looking at a legit workhorse running back here, okay? He was RB7 in the utilization score. Shout out Dwayne McFarland last season. He was RB12 in terms of PPR points per game because we finally saw him actually get a chance to catch the football. Obviously, Clint Kubiak, speaking of those Saints, now took his talents over to Seattle. So yes, I do believe that's going to be good news for Walker in that scheme. And shout out to the Athletics. Jake Seeley was actually talking to him on the Pat Mayo show last week. And I don't know what Jake's source is, Freeman, but he actually said he talked to someone involved with the Seahawks organization who told him that a workhorse role is going to be on the table for Walker this year. So I just think when you look at him, and he's going right now as this RB17, RB18, actually right next to Kamara, to be able to get a guy of Walker's talents as a legit round 5, maybe even round 6, depending on where you're playing pick, sign me up for that all day. Like, I just don't, okay, Zach Charbonnet's there. It is a new OC. I recognize there is at least some, potential for him to not get the every down role that we are looking for. But I think those are true for Bucky Irving. I think that's true for Chase Brown as well. And they're going so far ahead of this dude, even though I really don't inherently think they are that much better than Walker. In Chase Brown's case, I straight up don't think he's better at all. So Kenneth Walker, for me, someone I have been happy to draft. And I just feel like we could look up in week 2 or 3 for him and be like, oh yeah, Kenneth Walker's getting 20 touches per game. God forbid the injury gods chill out for once with this guy. He could be what the kids might call a league winning pick here.
Yeah, I can see it. I will say I see the skeptical case as well. And you mentioned new offensive coordinator, Zach Charbonnet. And by the way, we're going to have an episode later this week where we talk about some of the best handcuffs. And I will be curious to see where we ultimately put Charbonnet on that list. But Charbonnet, I think, a really strong number 2 running back. So depending on how the offensive coordinator views things, maybe that impacts Walker's workload. And then, of course, you've also got Sam Darnold there. I'm a little skeptical on him being able to transfer all of the production from last year in the Vikings offense to the Seahawks offense, especially now with no DK Metcalf. But the talent, and Ian, you talked about it. The talent is there for Walker. And basically anytime we've seen him get a workhorse load, he's been great. And then last year, we also saw him improve as a receiver. So I can definitely see the bull case for him. I'm not as optimistic as you are, but I can see it.
It's just one of these things where some of my misses over the years didn't draft enough Saquon. No one drafted enough Saquon Barkley last year, so I'm sure there's many with familiar feelings there. But Saquon last year, even Josh Jacobs in 2022, again, I don't think the process, as the process was right. I'm not trying to completely go down that road, but when I think about Jacobs and Saquon, these are 2 guys where when I watched over the years, I was like, I truly think these are top 5 running backs in the league with the football in their hands. Obviously, Saquon, probably the world's single best player with the football in his hands. I do think Kenneth Walker is very much in that conversation for top 5. Just freaking forced a missed tackle on 39% of his carries last year. That, I believe, is the single highest mark in the entire freaking PFF database. So Kenneth Walker, very, very, very real good real life running back. I maintain he will continue to put up some big numbers in fantasy land, and maybe even the biggest of them all here in 2025. Freedman, someone who we don't have to, I think, make as big of a leap here because he's been a fantastic running back 2 years in a row, is your honorable mention, Devon Achane over there with the Dolphins. Talk about Achane, an offense that maybe not trending in the best direction, but at the same time, only 1 year removed from finishing second in the league in scoring.
Yeah, Achane, I mean, just setting aside the offense, people will kind of act like he had a down year because he wasn't as efficient. He still had almost 1,500 yards, literally 1 yard shy of 1,500 yards, and he had 12 touchdowns, and that was a quote-unquote down year. Like, imagine if he actually gets back some of the efficiency. I mean, the guy is unreal. I'm not saying he's Chris Johnson, CJ2K, but like, I think he has that within his range of outcomes. And I kind of think, why would I draft Jahmyr Gibbs as a top 3, top 5 pick when I could get Devon Achane just a little bit later? Like, I think they are similar players and he has similar upside. So absolutely love Achane. I think he's the most explosive, like, pound for pound running back in the league. And I don't want to say as much exposure to him as possible, but I just want to get him at what I think is a discount to his talent in my home leagues.
And again, when you look at his ADP across providers, been sneaking up there over with Underdog. He is now someone that you do see going round 1, sometimes. But man, still just pick 18 over on Yahoo, sitting outside the first round, ESPN and Sleeper as well. I'm with you, man. He is someone that, I'll admit, scares me a little bit having him ranked ahead of someone like King Henry out here. But when we've seen him get there with the efficiency as a rookie, and then just as the most productive pass catcher at the position last year, multiple outs and an offense that, again, clearly wants to feed him the football. That's why I'm sticking with the Dolphins for my honorable mention. It is Jalen Wright, my most drafted running back of the summer. I think just in terms of pure handcuff potential, okay, if Achane goes down, Jalen Wright has the skill set, that explosive pass catching ability where he is going to be stepping up. Right now, being priced outside the top 50 running backs, handcuff upside alone, I think, is enough for Jalen Wright to warrant that price tag. He's going behind the Tyler Algiers, Trey Bensons of the world, who we also aren't expecting much standalone value from. But hey, Raheem Mostert's also out of the picture. The guy that scored 21 freaking touchdowns 2 years ago while Achane was still putting up bonkers numbers. Yes, they brought in Alexander Madison. Yes, they used a 6th-round pick on Ollie Gordon. But Freedman, I have a take for you. I think that if the Dolphins had drafted Jalen Wright this year with the 3rd-round pick that they actually traded once upon a time to get him in the 4th round in 2024, Jalen Wright, incoming rookie this year at round 3 draft capital, he'd be going in the top 36, but people are bummed and people just have rookie fever, so he's not. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea. That's next level thinking. I can't 100% agree with it, but I like the idea. And I will say, like, I am seconding this. Even though I like Achane, I think Jalen Wright also has a ton of potential as a handcuff, which does speak to the larger point. I think the Dolphins offense will be better this year than people expect.
I am just so poised to be hurt when I see the Dolphins get down the 1 yard line and freaking Ollie Gordon trots out there. But we will save those tears for later. Again, guys, I invite you to check out our ADP tool over at fantasylife.com. Just going to help you out in whatever form of fantasy football you are trying to play. So again, this has been the ADP audit presented by Premier National Sports. Then we'll give an extended shout out to our friends over at Premier National Sports, because if you are a high school athlete, or your kid is, or you even know someone who is, it is a brand new era trying to get recruited by these colleges, because now you can make some money. What a freaking country we live in. I love it. Go get that cash. But yeah, that NIL landscape might as well be the wild, wild west. So whether you're trying to play for the Buckeyes or you're just trying to be a walk-on somewhere and get a few extra dollars from the local dry cleaning store, the folks at Premier National Sports can help you and really create a personalized plan to, again, achieve whatever goals that you have. So again, invite all you guys to go check out premiernationalsports.com. Again, they're helping high school athletes really take their game to the next level and hopefully get compensated along the way. So again, premiernationalsports.com. Check them out. Time for the third quarter here on the Fantasy Life Show. Let's talk some wide receivers, Freedman. And I think we are not quite in lockstep with the players, but I see a general idea. Some of these wide receiver 3 types who, once you actually start getting the projections, maybe you're looking at a few more targets than people are giving them credit for. So first things first, Mr. Jerry Jeudy coming off the Jameis-induced 1,200 plus yard season. But I don't know, man. Like, this dude put up a ton of yards. He was obviously a first round pick back in the day for a reason. Feels a little bit like not fair that we're not giving Jeudy any credit. That said, some of his teammates are injured throughout that way. Thoughts on Jerry Jeudy and what makes him someone that you cannot wait to draft here in upcoming drafts?
Yeah, this is disgusting. I will fully acknowledge how disgusting this is. The Browns offense could be absolutely terrible. We really don't know who the starting quarterback is. And like in a quote unquote, like best case scenario, we know it's Joe Flacco, which absolutely should make me terrified. But I can't quit Jerry Jeudy. You look at the people that he's competing against for targets, and it's like very thin. Like at this point, if you're a Browns fan, you're like hoping that Deontay Johnson turns into a guy who actually sees the field on a regular basis and doesn't like quit on his teammates or something like that. But I mean, if Deontay Johnson is like the competition, I can see the case for why that's bad for Jerry Jeudy, but I can also see the case for why that's very good for Jerry Jeudy, because Deontay Johnson, for whatever reason, really hasn't been able to figure it out. And then it's Cedric Tillman, who flashed last year but was injured. And I like Tillman as like a later round guy, but I mean, Jeudy has the talent, and then you just kind of do the projections. And again, we've got him over at Fantasy Life. I'm projecting him for 129 targets. And I don't think that's actually that much of a stretch, just given the lack of target competition that he has there. And I think Flacco will end up starting a lot of the season. And Flacco, we just saw it a couple of years ago. It was an abbreviated stint, but, and you can sort of poke fun of like Flacco winning comeback player of the year, but Flacco looked good in Kevin Stefanski's system. Yeah. And basically any quarterback except for Deshaun Watson has looked pretty good in that system. And you kind of look at what he did last year in the 10 games when he did not have Deshaun Watson. He had 963 yards on 103 targets. And the quarterback situation might be better this year than it was last year, given that you have Flacco. And also, like, I think there's the possibility that Shedeur Sanders actually does better than his draft position. And maybe he ends up winning the starting job, or if he doesn't get it right away, maybe he gets it by the middle of the season. I just think that Jeudy has a chance once again to have a ton of targets coming his direction. Yeah. Even if they're not high quality targets, they are still targets. And if I can get a guy as a wide receiver 3 when he has a shot at like legitimately 9 to 10 targets a game, I just have to invest in that. So that is what I'm thinking of for my home leagues. I know it is disgusting because this Browns offense could be so bad. It could legitimately be the worst in the league, but I still have to take a shot on it.
But hey, I think that's more than being baked in. That's why this dude's going as like the wide receiver 36 or wide receiver 38 right now. And going to pull up this table right now that you guys can check out over on YouTube. But yeah, when you do look at, again, just the correlation between high scoring offenses and the elite players at positions, it doesn't matter as much with the pass catchers. Running back and quarterback, yes, very correlated. But guys, just a 0.12 correlation between the top 6 wide receivers and the top 6 NFL scoring offenses over the past 5 years. Similar sentiment at tight end. So for the Brian Thomases, as we saw last year, the Malik Neighbors, again, does happen more than you would think at those positions specifically. So yeah, again, Jerry Jeudy, it is gross indeed. But look, we're not getting Jameis Winston back. I think we can all agree it'd be a lot cooler if he was there. He may be the most fantasy-friendly quarterback that we have seen in the freaking 21st century. But Joe Flacco, maybe the Target edition. And I like Target a lot, so I do not hate that one. And yeah, maybe Shedeur Sanders, actually someone who could be worth, a little bit of a damn in his own right as well. I'm going to move on, Freedman, to someone who is going to cost you a much prettier penny, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be excited to draft him. Nico Collins, Texans wide receiver 1, someone who, when you look at what he did last year, my God, man, I cannot watch this dude's highlights without getting some Julio Jones flashbacks. And I understand those as high praise, but man, this dude, the way he can just gallop down the field, just, completely overwhelmed overwhelm guys with physicality as well. Truly, truly special player that I maintain deserves to be in any real life and fantasy top 5 conversation. So Freedman, here's my thing. When we start looking past, I would say the big 3 at the position. Okay, we have Chase, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. Everyone's pretty much in lockstep, but those are the big 3 guys. After that, though, when you just start looking at, I guess, the wide receiver 2 in some of these teams, why isn't Nico Collins getting the benefit of the doubt? Because, hey, even with some of those top guys, we got T. Higgins, we got Jordan Addison, George Pickens. That's, fairly steep target competition. Then we got Devontae Adams for Puka Nacua. We got Jameson Williams for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That Travis Hunter guy seems pretty good, and Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have to be competing with him as well. So not trying to hate on Jaden Higgins or Christian Kirk, but I think we can agree those guys are not exactly holding a candle to those other names I just listed. So Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, they seem to be 2 guys that could breeze past 150 targets, and then we wouldn't really think twice about it. And yeah, I'll take CJ Stroud over whatever quarterback the Giants are going to be putting out there, unless it was Jameis. That would be pretty sweet, but seems unlikely to happen with him as the QB3 on the depth chart right now. So Freedman, I have gone out of my way all offseason long to take Nico at the end of round 1, early parts of round 2, if possible. What say you?
Yeah, I can see it. Like, it wouldn't be a surprise if Nico Collins ended up having more targets than, I don't know, like Justin Jefferson. Like, you wouldn't think that's possible, but yeah, I mean, he legitimately could lead the league in targets. Dalton Schultz, that guy's not going to hog a lot of targets at the tight end position, right? And you mentioned the wide receivers. It's not as if they have a really strong backfield in the Texans for receiving purposes. So yeah, you can see how a ton of targets, 10 plus targets per game, could be funneled to Nico Collins. So I second what you are saying there, Ian. I don't have him quite as enthusiastically placed in my rankings as you do, but yeah, Nico Collins, it's not like I'm going out of my way to avoid him. And if he's there and I'm looking for a wide receiver, I'm gladly taking him.
2 more guys we want to break down. I'm going to be back more in the Jerry Jeudy sign of things, but I want to give my guy Nico some love. But Freedman, we'll start with your honorable mention. Chris Olave, my God, you and these Saints, man. I know you actually had Tyler Shuck as someone who, I'm not going to let you, just for your own, sanity and just, reputation here, not going to let you go on about Tyler Shuck, Freedman. But Chris Olave, I can get down with my Buckeyes. What are you thinking about the wide receiver 1 down there in New Orleans?
So you and Dwayne did a great job breaking down all of the different teams in your team series. And Dwayne talked a lot about Chris Olave and the underlying number 1 usage, like number 1 wide receiver usage that he has when he's healthy. He's healthy now. And I'm not going to say Tyler Shuck is a great quarterback, but I think Tyler Shuck is in a better situation than people might expect. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden, all of these players on the Saints are undervalued in the market. But even just on his own, Chris Olave, he has the underlying number 1 wide receiver usage that you want to see, and you can get him late in your draft. Not late in your draft, but late compared to what I think his inherent talent is. So Chris Olave, definitely someone I'm targeting.
Early ADP, wide receiver 35. Next guy I'm going to talk about is in that same range as well. Calvin Ridley sitting there as a wide receiver 32. Similar sentiment, but in Calvin Ridley's case, we don't have to have as much of a leap of faith in the quarterback position because we got the number 1 overall pick gunslinger Cam Ward doing his thing for the Titans. So last year, look, it wasn't amazing for Calvin Ridley. I get it, but wide receiver 37 in PPR points per game. Saw him actually be the wide receiver 29 after DeAndre Hopkins was traded. Led the league easily, guys, in unrealized air yards, which is a fancy way of measuring the distance on your incomplete targets. So this is a situation where, honestly, I've already been bugging Dwayne enough about increasing Ridley's, projection. Freedman, you've had a couple, vacation weeks, but I'll start getting in your DMs now too. 111 targets for Ridley, Freedman. Look at this depth chart. Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson is a starting wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans in 2025. I mean, look, I understand target share and you can't get too carried away. This is why Freedman and Dwayne do our projections and not myself. So I understand I'm being a bit, excited here about my guy. But I just think with Ridley, man, he is going to be 30 years old, but a bit younger in football years thanks to, that old gambling suspension. I'm going to use that as a positive here in my one-sided argument. But man, Freedman, maybe not, the 150 number that we're throwing out there for Nico and Neighbors, but 111, those are rookie numbers. Get that up for me.
Well, I mean, okay, to sound like Dwayne, there's a wide range of outcomes here, and because it's a rookie quarterback, a lot of things rebuilt within that offense, we just don't know. I would say like this is the median projection, but there's the wide range to where if this offense is markedly better than we expect, Cam Ward better than we expect, yeah, all of a sudden in our rest of season projections, as we're updating this stuff, as we get more information, weeks 2, week 3, week 4, at that point, we could be like, oh man, Calvin Ridley's on a legitimate 150, 160 target pace, and there's no reason to think that that's a Fugazi. So Ridley, I can see the bull case for him, and I would say I think he's priced, even in the projections, I think he's closer to his floor than his ceiling. So I can see the bull case for Ridley for sure.
Again, guys, common theme with 3 of our 4 players. I went ahead and took the easy one with Nico Collins, but Jerry Jeudy, Chris Olave, and Calvin Ridley, especially when that price tag is already driving down to wide receiver 3 territory, I do think it is, again, more than accounting for the potential man QB play. Really like the chances of drafting these guys, quite a bit here in the upcoming months. Let's close things out with a look at the tight ends, Freedman. Time for quarter 4 here on the Fantasy Live Show. You want to talk about someone who I have drafted more than just about any tight end so far, and that is the reigning, defending, back-to-back top 5 tight end, David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, let's talk about more Browns players, Freedman. Why not? Floor is yours.
Yeah, it's not enough. I'm talking about Saints and Browns players, absolutely trash type of stuff. But David Njoku, as you mentioned, borderline elite production the past couple of years, especially when he's been without Deshaun Watson. And so, again, I think very little target competition. He was great in the abbreviated stint with Joe Flacco, was getting like 10 targets per game, 9.5, or I should say now 95 utilization score is what he was seeing when he had Flacco as his quarterback. I think if he can approach those numbers, once again, he has top 3 tight end production within his range of outcomes. And I will say, like, I'm projecting him like he's already a top 4, top 5 tight end. So I'm very enthusiastic about Njoku. And I think that's almost regardless of whether it's, Flacco for the season or Shedeur Sanders or some combination thereof.
One of only 5 tight ends that the team at Fantasy Life currently has projected for over 100 targets. And I'm going to go ahead and pick one of the other ones. Evan Ingram, pretty much, the same sort of situation, except we feel a little bit better about the Broncos offense. Now, the leap of faith here is that Broncos tight ends under Sean Payton have not had many, if any, targets. They rank dead last in the NFL by quite a bit. But man, we're talking about guys like Adam Troutman and, just again, the Jags, if you will, that have been in that offense. I do think given the money, given the Joker role that, again, Payton has been chasing all these years, we are going to see Ingram be a major part. And it wouldn't be surprising, as our projections state, if he does wind up working as Bo Nix's number 2 pass game option. So being down there, man, as that kind of borderline tight end 1 option, pretty close to David Njoku. Those have been my 2 targets. Very similar reasons. And honestly, I do think when you're looking at these tight ends, both guys have a kind of a lower $8 position. It's okay if we don't have the best QB play in the world. There's the old saying, the old adage, if you will, that a tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend. Of course, that's more so for Shedeur Sanders and or, Dylan Gabriel doing their thing with the Browns. But hey, Bo Nix, year 2, certainly not someone who's afraid to, get his running backs involved. Why couldn't Evan Ingram more so be that guy underneath areas of the field? Love that target upside for Njoku and Ingram if you are finding yourself bypassing those big 3 tight ends. That said, Freedman, I don't find myself bypassing the big 3 tight ends all that often because George Kittle is available in round 4, more drafts than not. I cannot stop drafting him. And accordingly, he is your honorable mention pick here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the teardrop from Brock Bowers and Trey McBride to George Kittle, if there is even a teardrop at all, it is very minor. And you kind of see that in the projections as well. I have Trey McBride projected for 166 fantasy points. I have George Kittle projected for 162.7. And I will say, I think there's room for significant upside in Kittle's projection because there is so much uncertainty with these wide receivers. We don't know for sure that Brandon Ayuk is going to be ready for week 1. We definitely know that Deebo Samuel has been traded away. A lot of uncertainty with Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall as unknown entities. We know that George Kittle is an absolute baller at the tight end position, and the connection that he has with Brock Purdy, just absolutely very intrigued by George Kittle. I will say the only thing that pushes down my enthusiasm for George Kittle is the fact that I can get David Njoku significantly later in the drafts. But just on his own, Kittle in a tier with Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, I think he's definitely the one that I want to target because he's the cheapest of those 3.
And just think about in past years when it's week 6 and, oh man, Debo's questionable and Ayuk's questionable, like how freaking excited we would be to play George Kittle. And that's now like our every week reality, at least for the first, month or so of the season where Ayuk's going to be out. Who's to say he's even going to be the same once and if when, he is going to be back in the picture. So with you there on Kittle, I'm going to close things out with a bit more of a cheaper option. If you are finding yourself getting past these target hogs, you tight end 11 or later, and you just want someone who could maybe have a spike touchdown season, why not get Tucker Kraft? And you can also get a nice fantasy team name after this, Kraft, Yak, and Cheese, everyone. I looked it up on Google, so I can't take full credit for it, but heck of a nickname, heck of a player. You look at the underlying efficiency stats, really does have everything going for him. Now, it is a Packers offense where things are so spread out. We had 4 different players last year finish with between 70 and 76 targets. So not exactly, again, expecting him to have 100+ pass game opportunities to work with, but we like the talent. We like Jordan Love. We like Matt LaFleur. We like the offense as a whole. I do think, again, he's checking all those boxes that you would want to have with a late round tight end. So guys, again, those are the players that we cannot wait to draft this year. Just a quickly run through them for you. JJ McCarthy, Justin Fields, and Josh Allen at quarterback. Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Devon Achane, and Jalen Wright at running back. Jerry Jeudy, Nico Collins, Chris Olave, and Calvin Ridley at wide receiver. David Njoku, Evan Ingram, George Kittle, and Tucker Kraft at tight end. I guess I lied. Freeman is 15 players, not 16, because we both said Fields, but we'll watch the film and get better there. Let's close things out in OT, though, by answering a couple questions from the chat. If you guys still got some, holler as we have a few minutes left in the show. But want to get one from Brian in the chat. Appreciate you, man. Super flex keeper, Freedman, Brock Bowers or Kyler Murray? We'll assume the cost is equal.
Super flex, I feel like you got to tilt towards quarterback, but I will say Brock Bowers is the one guy that I would actually consider in this, because I think he has a chance of like breaking the league over the next couple of years from the tight end position. And you get such an advantage by having him at that position versus any of the other edges that say like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson provides at wide receiver. So I gotta say, like, I lean towards Kyler, but like my heart wants Brock Bowers, knowing that it's a keeper situation and you can have control of him for years.
If it's tight end premium, especially, I think I'm going Bowers at that point. Yes. Freeman, this is crazy, man. So I just joined a Empire Dynasty League. That's another one we didn't talk about. What's cool about this one is half of the pot every year. This is Paul Charchian's brainchild, by the way, of course. Half the pot goes into this stash, and then the first guy to win the league 2 years in a row or 4 years total, you get the stashed up money, and then the league's just done. It's over. You have your Empire. So I'm in this league. It is super flex, and it is also tight end premium. I took Brock Bowers, man, at 108 after Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and 5 quarterbacks. We'll find out in 5 to 10 years if that was a good idea or not. But again, that was one of the guys really high on, and especially that TEP scoring, deservedly so. Let's also get one from Jamie in the chat. Appreciate you, Jamie. Freeman, are you prioritizing quarterback or tight end or both early on in full PPR with 3 flexes, no DST or kicker? So again, basically, what is your willingness to embrace one of the elite onesies when you do have 3 flexes to fill out in full PPR?
3 flexes, full PPR, and this is not super flex, correct? It's just 3 flexes.
No.
If that's the case, I'm looking more tight end first. I'm always willing to wait at quarterback. That's my disease. That's my sickness. I like Tyler Shuck this year. Like, what can I say? I'm the guy who would wait at quarterback. But yeah, I would prioritize tight end in a 3 flex PPR situation.
I tend to be in agreement. Again, if the board falls right and all the wide receivers are gone, the running backs and those 2 tight ends, and I can get Josh Allen there, that is when I'm down. And then maybe George Kittle around 4. I've had some drafts I really like where I've actually started running back, wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, then gone quarterback, then gone tight end. So 1-1-1-1 after 4. I do think it can work when it falls right, but I'm with you. More drafts than not, if I am going to go with either of those, it is tight end early. So last one, guys. Again, appreciate you as always. Be more like Jay. Freedman, you don't think Garrett Wilson can do what DJ Moore did with Fields? Reminder, DJ Moore, wide receiver 6 with Justin Fields in 2023. Why are you hating on Garrett Wilson, Freedman?
Yeah, you know what? That is a great point. I like DJ Moore. I do like Garrett Wilson, who I will say, like, yeah, he's probably more talented than DJ Moore, but I just have to be really skeptical about Tanner Engstrom as a play caller. So that's a big part of it. And the win total just brings it down to where I don't think we're going to see all that many passing attempts from Justin Fields this year. That's the reason.
To be fair, Freedman and I both got Garrett Wilson wide receiver 15. It's not completely out on him. Jay, you guys can go check out those ranks over at fantasylife.com. So I appreciate you guys again tuning into the Fantasy Life Show. We'll be back tomorrow with some Dynasty talk with my guy Jake, that and much, much more. So for Freedman, for producer Matt, for producer Kelsey, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.